Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Black Lightning. Obviously, we got our squad together, but it's a very imperfect squad because obviously none of them are having any specialized training. So this is actually kind of like the worst case scenario because you're basically going into this highly trained operation with a bunch of amateurs. And obviously on top of that, there's already budding issues all around because Grail's trying to get Brandon kind of in line, but Brandon's kind of a little bit like Jen in this situation. He's kind of going his own way because he's only in this for Jen, but also for the purpose of I'm going after Jace. But obviously because Grail's coming at this from the situation of, he knows the ASA's done a lot of terrible stuff, but he's trying to rectify that. But then you have Brandon being like, well, how many kids did you kill? Help kill before this? And Grail can't really answer. And he's like, there, so, and obviously, Brandon starts summoning up his powers until Jeff stands up, but then Jeff, so both of them end up walking away. But you can see Jeff being like, Jesus, this is what I gotta be working with. Because obviously Jen's got a chip on her shoulder because of this whole Khalil thing. Because she actually goes to talk to Khalil because Khalil's got the training and stuff like that. He could be useful in this operation, but he doesn't want to help simply because he's like, how can I be trusted? I've literally done so much terrible stuff. I've killed my own mom. And for that, Jennifer's like, but the fact of the matter is you can help me save mine. But for Khalil, it's like, how can you trust me? I can't be trusted. But for her, it's like, at least you're upfront with me. Literally everyone's lied to me. Her parents lied to her sister lied to her. It's like Khalil's the only person that's ever been really straight up to her about everything. And at least you're honest about being like, hey, I don't know if I can be trusted situation. But even with all that, Khalil's still like, no, I can't go. And obviously, like I said, Anissa's trying to be like, oh, you're ignoring me, Jennifer. But the fact of the matter is, I was protecting you. She's like, I don't need to be protected. Which you can make an argument you're kind of wrong in that case. I mean, you almost look at the argument of you do need to be protected, but because if you were more protected, maybe you can make the argument you wouldn't have got mixed up with Odell like you did. But then you could also make the argument it's because her family has been so overprotective and kind of locking her up, kind of treating her more like a freak rather than her daughter. In her mind, it led her going down a route with Odell because he gave her the freedom, let her kind of embrace who she is and embrace her powers, whereas the rest of her family, in particular her mom and dad, kind of shunned away from letting her kind of express her powers and stuff like that, so it's a whole complicated thing because obviously your family had your best interest, especially in Nissa, because it's if she had told you that Khalil, she didn't want you to see Khalil like that, the same Khalil that had nearly killed her as well, the same Khalil that has, this particular Khalil killed his mom too, but it's just that thing of it's you are in your sister's shoes, but at the same time it's a thing of well, the fact of the matter is she shouldn't make that choice for you because especially because Anissa's kind of going against the grain a lot, kind of making her own choices. So it's you got to recognize that because of everything that you guys have been through, Jennifer's an adult in her own right. She might still be a kid, but she is an adult, and the fact is she should be able to make her own decisions. Much she has just as much right as Anissa has to kind of do her thing. It's also kind of insulting because Jennifer's like, yeah, you're just like dad. It's which it's also, it's I'm such a backhanded, it's meant to be an insult, but at the same time that sucks because your dad tries his best. Girls don't make it easy. I mean, don't get me wrong, Jeff is messed up in certain regards, but at the same time, it's to be fair, you're raising, a teenager and a grown woman, so it's never going to be an easy situation, So it's that. I think it's that thing because despite their ages, they're always going to be his daughters, but they're especially for Anissa, she always wants to be treat me with respect. I'm a grown woman. I'm not that little girl anymore. And the argument could be said the same thing about Jennifer. So there's that. Then there's the whole TC and Erica thing, and TC's making all those faces to her, and she kind of makes a frowny face, being like, oh, awkward, ugh, and kind of walks away. I was like, oh, and TC's like, stupid. I was like, I'm like, aren't you picking a wrong time to try to lay down some game? I mean, that wasn't game. I had to put that in quotes. I mean, it was like, really, TC, is this really the right time? So there's that whole situation. I did like the fact is Jeff and Khalil ended up having a talk, and I thought that was nice because he feels bad and he's like, I wish I had done more for you. And Khalil's like, I told you literally before I died, you have nothing to apologize for. You literally did the best you could, so apology not accepted. Because Khalil doesn't blame him for the route that he went down. It's like, you did what you could. Just life, I had Tobias whispering in my ear, and just so much made me into eventually into painkiller. Like, that was me. But the fact is, he wants to leave now, and it's like, you should say something to Jennifer. You owe her that much. And he's like, I know I do, but for him, it's just like, goodbyes aren't the easiest thing, especially when it's to Jennifer, because he's had to say goodbye so many times. But, luckily, because of the deal with the ASA, Jeff was able to get everybody's names cleared. So not just the entire team, but also Khalil is kind of scrubbed from the record. So if he wants to, he can go live a life, which for him, it's like, not much one he can live no matter what, because there's no form of a normal life for him. But it's like, Jeff was like, the fact of the matter is, you could come with us. But like, Khalil's like, I've done enough killing in my life. So, but Jeff is like, the fact of the matter is, I won't stop. You would be a great asset to this team, but if that is the choice that you want to make, I won't stop you. And he kind of lets Khalil go. So, at the same time, there's the whole Jace and Lynn situation continuing. I love Jace being such a, like, not in tune with human emotions and stuff. She's like, all right, this is what it says, like, trying to give Lynn a good morning, how was your day or something, like, oh, it's a great day, like, trying to be encouraging and just trying to get Lynn's mood up and stuff like that. And it's like, oh, it's so weird and so awkward, you trying to be a normal person. You're kind of a psychopath yourself, but it's just like, the fact is, you trying to be normal, trying to be more approachable, trying to connect. It's so weird. But obviously they meet the new person in charge, because the colonel is no longer in charge. It's actually Gravedigger, played by Wayne Brady, because I saw his name, I was like, Wayne Brady? Who's Wayne Brady playing? Oh, he's playing Gravedigger. And it's like, that's really interesting. And I like that they introduce him in a way that it's like, because Lynn's like, wait, you're an American, which I think is ironic. I find that funny, because if you don't know, the actress who plays Lynn isn't American, she's British. So because it kind of trips me up when I hear her British accent, and because I'm like, right, I kind of forget that she is. I think in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., because that's something I'd seen her previously, I want to say in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. she had a British accent, but I could be mistaken. I don't remember it. It was a while back. But regardless, of tangent stuff, like, it's just funny hearing that statement come out of her mouth, saying that. But regardless, and he was like, yeah, I am, but it's like, for him, he does work for Markovia, and she's like, wait, but why? And he's like, it's a long story. I'm like, what the hell is that story? Because whatever his situation is, he does know Jace. And I guess it was like in the time that Jace has been with Markovia, because that was the whole thing of like which of the metas is, procured. So it's like Jace has that limited experience with like him being one of the pod metas that she had a connection to. But it's like, why would you be so willing to fight for Markovia? Maybe it has something to do with maybe his own personal experience. If he was in the pods, it must mean he crossed paths with the ASA. Maybe it's just in general probably like this situation of like, he was probably a well-trained soldier in the U.S. government, military or something like that, but shit went sideways and he just, they might have gotten left for dead or, betrayed by the government, and so that's why he's working with Markovia. I'm curious to dive into that long story, whatever that story is. And at first it seems like he's compassionate, but he's just like, oh no, you need to make that because the fact of the matter is we need to stabilize all these other pod metas, which she's like, I'm not going to do that. You're going to turn them into weapons. He's like, well, freedom isn't for free, so it's like, oh, that's interesting, which what's also interesting is the fact is that finding out what his power is, Jace describes it as a push, which makes me think of the movie Push, because that was how they call like the compulsion ability in that universe. They called it Push, but it also reminds me of especially the effect it has on his voice. It reminds me of the Word of God from Preacher. Which is interesting because obviously that was under Vertigo and this is DC, that whole thing. So it just makes me think of that. But you kind of have to follow his commands because it seems like his specifically works because apparently it kind of attaches to your nerve system. We kind of get a little bit of an explanation of that later on. But obviously it attacks a certain part of your brain to kind of force you to do what you want him to. But then like obviously Lynn found a way around that. And utilizing the means of like making it so she can temporarily get metahuman ability. She tricked Gravedigger into giving her some of his blood and was able to utilize his abilities, which that's interesting in itself. So while that's happening, the fact of the matter is we see the squad, teaming up, and the fact of the matter is they're going to come rescue, like them walking, and it's just like, I'm like, look at this damn squad. I brought it up last episode. It's so trippy because I would have, like I said in the beginning, I was like, oh, I guess Black Lightning's not really going to have a squad, and then, well, obviously he has his daughters, he has Gambi, but now look at this squad. I mean, granted, it's made up of people that are connected to the family, but also other people who aren't, but it's just like, look at this damn squad. Khalil joining at the last second too. It's like, dude, look at this squad. And then proceeding to deal with the issues that everyone has on a plane, because you have Anissa, who isn't too trusting of Khalil, because like, can we really trust him? And then the fact of the matter is he's sitting beside Jen, that doesn't sit well with her. She even brings it up to Gambi and Jeff, and Jeff was like, yeah, it was my idea to bring him along. And Gambi's like, yeah, if anything gets out of line, I can shut him down really quick. She's like, I hope so. Then there's the whole situation with Brandon not being in the best condition because of his earth abilities, but also just in general, he hasn't been on a flight before. It doesn't sit well with him, and so he's kind of like rocking the plane a little bit. But then like Khalil kind of knocks him out, which Anissa was like, did you just poison him? It's like, no, the only person that can poison is Painkiller. I just kind of knocked him out, and she's just kind of like almost like, I got my eyes on you, Khalil, type of situation. So there's that. Grail also leans in. It's like, yo, I did get to tell you this back in the pit, but the fact is, Gray programmed Erica to kill Lynn if we don't get her back. So it's like, oh no, but TC's like, nah, I already got on that. I'm like, what? Kind of about to say, because I was like, if TC, because like TC had noticed the chip and he touched it, I was like, oh, but it's like, oh, at that moment he already got to. He ends up talking about the fact is, I mean, Erica's not really my type. The fact is, I go after, and I love Jeff immediately cutting him off, like, son, get to the point. So the fact of the matter is he shut down the chip, because the chip inside of her doesn't work the same way Khalil's does. Like, his needs to stay intact so it can make sure that he survives, but in Erica's case it doesn't work like that. So, but that was kind of interesting, like that whole ploy and everything was because he heard from what's his Grail's device about like, oh no, it talked to me. It's like, it's that crazy thing of like, right, machines talk to you and everything. So like, just I kind of keep forgetting. It's not just like, oh, he talks to machines, like machines literally talk back to him. So it's like, right, I keep forgetting about that aspect of his ability. But it's like, obviously Jeff is kind of going through, a lot right now too, because he's, nervous about this whole situation. And because I like how this, it kind of ties into the opening a little bit. And I love that kind of breakdown from Jeff about like basically like Black Lightning. It was never a name he was all too happy about. I'm thinking it's more so probably about the whole like being called Black Lightning. I wonder if there's some truth to that. Like, is that kind of based on something from the comic books of being like him he only embraced the name because it was something people gave him and it just stuck for the past like 20 some years. But for him, he talks about obviously the complication of being, trying to balance this superhero life with a normal life and how it didn't work out. And the fact of the matter is him and Lynn came together, fell apart, got divorced, got back together. It's always been a spiral because no matter what happens in their lives, like, Black Lightning doesn't mix with any aspect of his life. It will always be the thing that kind of throws his life off balance, that whole Black Lightning side of things, And I love I love the whole line of like, even if I have to spill blood, even if I have to break bones, if I have to hurt, if I have to kill people, I will if it means getting Lynn back, So I thought that was such a powerful, moment. And that kind of circles back around because, Gambi is like, the fact of the matter is, look at what you're doing. You're leading this squad and everything. I could not be more proud of you. Like, everything that you've accomplished, you're a hero. And for him, Alvin would be proud of you. And he's like, what is a hero? And he's like, you are just all that you're done, So it was kind of nice. I mean, especially because it reigns kind of true because, hey, let's not forget, Black Lightning is one of the heads of the Justice League in his universe. That's something cool to think about too, that, it's like your leadership is there. You have the power, you got the presence and power to lead people in the battle, and just obviously everyone getting locked in, loaded for this battle. Like, okay, you got this plan, you got this. All right, let's do this. And Jeff, like, jumping off the plane, like flipping, and then like superhero landing and knocking out the first wave. Then we got Grace coming in, shape shifting into the Colonel and knocking everybody out. And then like, I love that situation because obviously, like, sadly Jeff has to go after Tobias, because it's like the irony behind that situation we all know. But I love the fact of the matter is it's like him, Erica, and Anissa, and they can't get through the door no matter what they do. It's like, all right, let's give it to Erica. Like, they like build up the kinetic energy, and it's like, all right, do it. She runs into the door, and I love that she kept running, and then Anissa's like, okay. And then at the end, Erica's like jumping up, and she's like, yeah, yeah, yeah. And then she has a conversation, and she's like, kind of like gets a little more serious. I was like, oh, that's super adorable. I love that. So obviously, everyone's kind of splitting up in that regard. Khalil and Jennifer are going after Lynn. Obviously, they were with Brandon and Grail, but Brandon ran off on his own because he's going for Jace, and Grail is going after him. But obviously Brandon's not slowing down, and even when he does meet Jace, he gets that opportunity because obviously Jace doesn't recognize him. He's like, oh, but the fact of the matter is, you're done. Like, I'm gonna kill you. But Grail knocks him out because I think it's a situation of, well, because he didn't know, because he asked Brandon before, but Brandon was like, "No, I'm not going to share my business. Like what I've got planned with you is not your business." But also at the same time, it's like Brandon doing what he was doing would have compromised the mission. So it's like, yeah, you want to kill her, sure, but the fact of the matter is, there's too much going on right now for you to let your personal stuff to get in the way of all this. So I'm sure Brandon's really going to appreciate that later on. But then there's a whole situation of Lynn using the ability to control. I kept calling him. He is a colonel, right? Wasn't that his whole title? Regardless, controls the main dude and is leaving with him. So all that's happening. Khalil and Jennifer, and it's so pretty badass. Like the bad guys come and Jennifer's like kicking ass, like she blocks the bullets with a big surge and then pushes it forward. And you almost have Khalil looking like, damn, pretty impressive, because he hasn't really seen Jennifer get locked and loaded. And now that she has more control of her abilities, obviously her abilities have sprung way larger than what they were the last time Khalil saw her, which was last season, so. But then Khalil's like, oh, someone's coming, and he stays behind. And then it's a one-on-one fight between him and Gravedigger, and it's like, yo, and I love it. And it's like, oh, I love that thing of, like, I love that in fights, like, you talk too much. And it's just like a hand-to-hand combat type of situation. I mean, Khalil tried it up with the guns, but Gravedigger doesn't just have that ability. He's basically super soldiering. I mean, he's basically like Khalil, but obviously he has more experience. I'm wondering how, Painkiller would perhaps fare a much better chance. Because I'm wondering, because obviously in this state, Khalil has access to what Painkiller had access to inside the chip. But I'm wondering, are there certain, does he have access to everything that Painkiller would? Or does he only have access to fraction? I'm assuming like everything, because like all the stuff that kind of came to him at the end of last episode, like, so it seems like he had access to everything, but he still got his ass kicked to him because it is the whole inexperienced thing. But I think it's also like Khalil isn't in this to be a killer, because for him it's like the opportunity to be a hero, to save people this time. That's what he's kind of also doing this for too. So because it's like, my mom always respected your mom, and this is what she would want me to do to kind of help you save your mom. So I thought that was kind of neat. But Gravedigger, but like I said, it was a pretty sick battle, like the cartwheels and the flips over each other. It's like, yo, the choreography in that was nuts, but also just like, it was a very one-sided fight. Like, Khalil got some good stuff in, but it was mainly Gravedigger kicking his ass. So there's that whole situation. Jeff going to save Tobias, which Tobias running his damn mouth, being like, oh, thank you, Jefferson. And it's like, right, Jeff didn't know that, because he hasn't talked to Lynn, so Lynn never brought that up about the whole, like, all right, Tobias knows who you are situation. So, but it's like, that's not my name. And even if it was, just come on. But the fact is, he punches and beats down Tobias a little bit. But it's like, nah, that's why you didn't shock those guys, because you're afraid to hit me, because you need me alive, because he's necessary for stabilizing the other metas. So there's that whole thing. But lo and behold, who did he run into? None other than Gravedigger. I was almost wondering if Tobias was going to stick around and fight, but like when Jeff was initially fighting those other guys, I was like, yeah, he ran away, didn't he? But so I was like, oh, this sucks. Because Gravedigger knocks him out. He's like, oh, like, I've heard a lot about you, Black Lightning. And so I'm like, oh shit. It's like, you came here to save Lynn. You're going to walk away losing Jeff, aren't you? Tobias managed to scatter away, but obviously everyone's making their way back to the plane and everything. Gravedigger's there, and it's like, oh, either you get off the plane. He's like, I'm not a killer. I don't want to kill everybody here, but I will if you don't come back with me. And luckily, Lynn is going with them, because there's no way anyone was going to be able to stop him. Jeff comes out of nowhere, and he's like, don't ever touch my wife. Surges the energy through. I was almost halfway. I know this ain't necessarily the show, but I mean, it still could be the show just because, well, Adam did a thing like that in the first episode of this season of Legends of Tomorrow. I mean, Ray, what I'm saying, Adam, was the fact is of the whole, how the whole, you know, without spoiling it if you haven't seen it, but the whole Rasputin situation, how that was resolved. I kind of expected something like that with Jeff doing that to Gravedigger, but it's like, because I was like almost expecting him to rip his hands apart and then kind of rip Gravedigger in half, but it's like, no, he didn't. It was just surging the energy to him. I was like, you about to kill him, ain't you? But it's like he drops him down, so it's like, now he's not dead. I'm only making that assumption because I was like, it seemed like they went through the trouble getting Wayne Brady for that role. I was like, I was expect us to probably see him around, especially considering we haven't got the full scope of his story. But like to hear that, him being like, oh, don't touch my wife, and you know, Lynn's like, I love you, he's like, I love you too, and it's like, all right, everybody get on the plane. So that was beautiful. So it's like, hey, the mission was halfway a success because once again, Tobias is handling the off on his own. Once again, they still need Tobias, so what they're gonna do about that. Also, Jace is on the plane too. That's gonna be a whole interesting thing on its own, because I don't remember if we saw her, like, but we know that she was following Grill when he picked up Brandon, so it's like, well, you know, we'll see about that, but I'm interested to see what ends up happening with Tobias. Like I said, he's probably, not unless he managed to find his own way. I mean, it's like you're kind of on foreign soil, so I don't know how that's going to really help you. Not unless he ended up getting recaptured. We'll see about that, you know. But I'm very interested to see where ultimately all this ends up taking us going forward into the next episode. Do note there won't be an episode next week, but there will be one on the week after next on February 24th. So do keep that in mind. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.